Okay, let's really dive into this. Imagine walking into a courtroom, right? A place that's supposed to be all about truth. Only you find yourself right in the middle of this huge drama, something that stretches back decades. It involves a family you thought, well, you thought you kind of knew, and a patriarch whose whole world, this carefully built world, is just about to shatter. This isn't just some legal fight. It's a massive, profound unraveling. So in this deep dive, we're taking you right into this really compelling story. It's about power, control, and honestly, the incredible courage it takes for women to break years and years of silence. We're going to explore a real courtroom bombshell. What looked like just a routine hearing. A motion to dismiss, maybe. It turned into this huge public reckoning, exposed hidden tapes, secret wives, and led to an arrest that just changed everything for the Brown family. Our mission today is really to dissect these layers, these intricate layers of coercive control, emotional manipulation. And we see it all through the powerful, sometimes really heartbreaking testimonies of the people who actually lived it. We want to get into the mechanisms of control, the long-term psychological toll, and how these systems get built and maybe how they fall apart.
Exactly. And we'll guide you through how all these different perspectives, you've got the wife seen as rebellious, the one seen as loyal, even these voices from the past you just didn't expect, they all come together. And they paint this really comprehensive, sometimes honestly chilling picture of a system built on fear, but disguised, cleverly disguised as faith. So you'll get real insight into how control works, the subtle mechanisms, the huge psychological weight on the victims, and, the ripple effects. What happens when just one person speaks their truth and suddenly it gives courage to others? Get ready for maybe one or two aha moments, because this story, it really shows that sometimes the most dangerous truths, the ones you thought were buried deepest, were actually hidden right out in the open all along.
Okay, so let's start right there, in the courtroom, where this whole thing began to unravel.
Yeah.
The courtroom confrontation, setting the stage for the unraveling. A, the atmosphere of anticipation. So Christine Brown walks through those courthouse doors, and she says the air just felt different. She had this feeling, a gut feeling, like something major had shifted. She hadn't actually seen Cody in, over 6 months? Not since the night he just stormed out of their old house, leaving all this anger and confusion behind. And now, here they are, forced together again. But this time, cameras are flashing, lawyers are whispering back and forth, and the courtroom is packed, just packed, buzzing with whispers, morbid curiosity, nerves. You can just imagine that tension, right? She touched the bench. It feels cold, old wood. The air smells like dust, old leather, and just pure nerves. It's thick with unspoken history. And across the aisle, she sees Janelle. Janelle's just staring at the floor, won't make eye contact. Robin's dabbing her eyes with tissue, looking distressed. And Mary, the first wife, looks like stone. Just unreadable. It's pure drama before a word is even spoken.
And what's really striking there isn't just the tension, it's that physical space, the courtroom, instantly becomes this intense psychological arena. It's not just a room, it's a stage, right? Where years of buried emotions, complex power dynamics, all these internal conflicts are about to just explode. The body language, you mentioned Janelle looking away, Robin's visible distress, Mary's almost defiant stillness. They're not just reacting to the moment. No, they're broadcasting years of deep-seated drama, loyalties, resentments, the sheer weight of everything they know. For anyone watching, these small actions are like a silent movie before the storm hits. It signals this is way more than a simple legal motion. It's the culmination. You can almost feel the pressure they've been under, and that fragile piece, it's about to shatter.
B. Cody's entrance and the prosecutor's opening salvo, and then you hear it, all rise, and Cody walks in. The notes describe his presence not really as confidence, but more like this rigid, almost forced attempt at presence, something closer to trying to maintain control. Even here, in this formal setting, he's still projecting that image, head of the family, the patriarch. And he pointedly does not look at Christine, or maybe just a quick glance, not long enough to register anything. It's like he's trying to hold on to this illusion of authority, even as it's obviously crumbling. But then the prosecutor steps up, Eleanor Vance. Sharp eyes, real presence. Her voice is described as smooth, deliberate, but like slicing through the tension, and she lays it out clear as day. This is not a case about love lost. This is a case about power misused. And she doesn't stop there. She says they intend to prove that Cody Brown, using the cover of spiritual union, orchestrated a long-standing pattern of coercive control over 4 women, manipulating money, silencing dissent, creating a household ruled, and this is the key phrase, not by faith but fear.
Yeah, that opening statement by Vance is absolutely critical. It immediately reframes everything, takes it right out of the realm of, just personal problems or lifestyle choices. It shifts the whole narrative from a messy family breakup to a serious legal issue, coercive control. And what's so important about that legal concept, and it's relatively new in a lot of places, is that it recognizes the pattern, right? The insidious pattern of non-physical stuff. Isolation, financial control, manipulating faith. It looks beyond just single acts of violence. It sees the cumulative damage, how these tactics slowly chip away at someone's freedom, their autonomy, basically trapping them without physical bars. So for the prosecution, proving that pattern is everything, when Vance says ruled not by faith but fear, she's setting the whole framework. She's saying, look beneath the surface. This is the real story. It's about that systematic erosion of will, not just, people having arguments.
And to make that point crystal clear, the scene flashes back. It's 2013, a long dinner table. Christine serving mashed potatoes, but her smile is stiff, like it's painted on. Cody's talking right over her, totally absorbed, praising Robin for her grace under pressure. Mary's barely touching her food, just pushing it around. Janelle's glued to her phone, trying to check out maybe. And then there's this detail. It's so quiet, but it hits hard. A forgotten birthday balloon is just quietly deflating in the corner, losing its air slowly.
Oh, that deflating balloon detail is incredibly powerful, isn't it? It's so much more than just background clutter. It's this perfect visual metaphor for the subtle, slow decay, the emotional neglect happening right there in the family. It backs up the prosecutor's claim of a long-standing pattern beautifully. It's not always loud fights, right? Sometimes it's this quiet, almost invisible erosion of joy, connection, individuality. It shows how even everyday moments, things that should be happy, become hollowed out. It mirrors the emotional state of the family. That dinner table becomes like a little snapshot of the bigger, unsettling picture. It hints at that systematic disregard for certain people's feelings, the stuff that would later just pour out. It's like constant, low-level emotional wear and tear.
2. The whys break their silence. Christine, Robin, and Mary's testimonies. A. Christine Brown. The first voice of rebellion. Okay, back in the courtroom, present day. Christine's fingers are twitching. That memory, the 2013 dinner, the balloon, that fake smile, it was 10 years ago, but she says it's like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And immediately, the defense lawyer, Robert Shaw, jumps in, tries to downplay it all, waves it off as just emotional, says it's a family matter being twisted into legal theater. He insists Cody loved them, supported them, protected them, and this whole thing, just revenge from wives who left. But you can feel it in the room, right? People are thinking, this isn't just about feelings, it's about control. But this whole system designed to keep Cody right at the center, no matter the cost.
Right. And that defense tactic, dismissing it all as emotional or a family matter, that's textbook. It's a very common and frankly insidious way to dodge legal accountability. They try to reframe systematic control as just, relationship drama or exaggerated feelings. It puts the blame on the victim for how they feel instead of on the perpetrator for what they did. And it raises this really important question for us and for you listening. How do victims end up internalizing this stuff? Or justifying it, sometimes for years. The prosecutor's earlier point about being promised spiritual rewards for silence, that's a huge piece of the puzzle. It suggests this powerful control mechanism where their own faith is used against them. It creates this massive psychological barrier. When your salvation, your whole spiritual life seems tied to staying quiet and obeying, challenging the system feels like spiritual suicide. It makes it incredibly hard to even see it as abuse, let alone fight back.
And to really drive home that favoritism, that neglect Christine felt, we get another flashback. This one's 2009. Christine's in labor, intense pain. Mary's there holding her hand, trying to comfort her. Cody's not there. He shows up late. And not with an apology, no. He walks in with flowers in hand for Robin. Janelle apparently looked totally stunned, just disbelief on her face. And Christine, we learn, doesn't forget. It's such a raw, specific memory, just loaded with unacknowledged pain. It captures years of hurt in one single awful moment. Okay, back to the courtroom. The judge leans in, looks right at her. Mrs. Browning asks, are you prepared to testify? The room goes dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. She glances at Janelle, then Robin, then Mary. Mary meets her eyes and gives this silent, firm nod. Christine stands up, slowly, deliberately. Her voice is low, but it's steady now, filled with this new resolve. Yes, Your Honor, I am. And that moment, that shift, her standing up to speak publicly, legally, under oath for the first time, it just electrifies the room. Huge personal courage.
And her opening statement, it's incredibly profound. She doesn't just list events. She explains something universal about how control works. She says, control doesn't come all at once. It creeps in. One decision at a time, one no disguised as God's will, one silence in place of anger, until one day you realize you were just alone. Wow. It's not just her story, is it? It's a perfect description of how coercive control often operates. So subtle, the victim sometimes helps isolate themselves without even realizing it. It's like that frog in boiling water analogy, right? The heat goes up so gradually you don't notice the danger until it's way too late. And the impact on Cody, staring at her, rage in his eyes, but also something else, fear. That's telling. He's seeing his narrative slip away. Robin shifts, uncomfortable. Mary clenches her fist, knuckles white. This testimony, it's not just about Christine. It's about that slow, insidious process of losing yourself in a controlling relationship, the pattern that goes way beyond this one family.
Yeah, and she goes on, peeling back these layers of life lived under pressure. She talks about flickers of memory, the constant emotional bruises, locked doors, both real and metaphorical, that suffocating spiritual guilt, and the nonstop favoritism always dressed up as love. Her core message, and it's so strong, is he used their faith as a leash. He built a kingdom on obedience. She's not crying. She's not giving him that satisfaction. But the courtroom isn't quiet now. People are shifting, murmuring, like a collective penny dropping. It's clear she's hit on this deep, undeniable truth. What does it take, though, to finally get to that point? To speak so clearly against the system you are so deep inside? Be Robin Brown. The loyal one's turning point. Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting. The courtroom freezes again, we're told, because Robin Brown is called to the stand. Robin. If Christine was the rebel, Robin was always seen as the favorite, right? The chosen one, the one Cody always praised, confided in. And now she's going to speak. She looks, apparently, like she's never looked smaller. Hands trembling a bit, wearing a crisp white blouse, no jewelry, no makeup. Almost like she wants to fade into the wallpaper, but nope, she's center stage. The shock in that room must have been absolutely palpable, like a collective gasp just hanging in the air.
Yeah, this is a moment of just intense psychological conflict, isn't it? Loyalty versus truth, especially for someone seen as having the privileged position in that system. And her opening words, hesitant, shaky. I didn't come here to destroy Cody, but I can't lie anymore. I've lied enough to everyone, including myself. That's a huge turning point. It's an admission of her own role, her own self-deception, the immense pressure she must have felt for years. It's not just pointing fingers at Cody. No, this is a moment of self-acknowledgement, where the weight of the lie just becomes heavier than the fear of shattering everything. It shows that massive internal battle she's been fighting, and the point where telling the truth, no matter how painful, just became more urgent than keeping up the facade.
And we get this specific flashback from 2015. It's a quiet night. Robin's crying softly, shoulders shaking. Cody, in what she thought was this intimate moment, tells her she's his piece. He says Christine is jealous. Janelle never believed in him. Mary's too angry. And he whispers, like it's a secret just between them, "You're the only one I can trust. You're the only one who gets it." And Robin, isolated by those very words, she believed him. For years, believed she was special, uniquely understood by him.
Right, and that flashback is crucial because it shows exactly how the manipulation worked with Robin. It's often called love bombing or creating conditional affection. He isolated her by spinning this us against them story, made her feel like his special confidant, the only one who really got him. What's so insidious about love bombing here isn't just making her feel special. It's how it weaponizes her deepest needs: belonging, validation, especially in a tight-knit faith community where those things are paramount. It creates this almost unbreakable emotional dependence. It makes the victim actually defend the system, trapping them, because they think they're uniquely privileged, not uniquely manipulated. You see how deep the manipulation goes. It gets tangled up in their identity. Loyalty feels like a choice, not something coerced. Robin believing it for years shows how ingrained it became, blurring love and control.
So Robin continues, her voice kind of choking up. He isolated me too, just differently. He made me think I was special, and that being special meant staying quiet. She describes this manipulation disguised as romance. Cody would reward obedience extra time, more affection, praise in front of the others, and punish defiance would withdraw coldness and shame. He made us compete for love. And she confesses, tears just streaming down now, and I let him. These tears, we're told, are raw, real, not performative, more like relief, like years of hidden pain finally bursting out.
You're seeing those insidious dynamics right there. Love bombing, conditional affection used expertly as tools of control. Robin's tears are significant. They are an act for sympathy. They're a genuine release. It suggests the huge psychological burden she carried, keeping up that facade of being the favorite, the loyal one. It really highlights how control isn't always overt, not always shouting or hitting. It can be woven right into the relationship fabric through these emotional rewards and punishments. It fosters this constant competition for affection. And Cody's reaction face turning dark shade of red, sharp whispers to his lawyer, shows his own shock. Maybe he's realizing even his loyal one is breaking free, exposing how control worked even at the top of his system.
The prosecutor then asks if he ever threatened her. Robin nods slowly, looking away for a second. Not directly, not with fists, she says, but with things that mattered more to him: time, approval, connection. He'd say, I just don't feel spiritually aligned with you when you act like that, and I'd beg to be better. And Christine gasps quietly in the gallery, because she's heard that exact phrase. Mary has too. Janelle too. They all have. Robin's realization is just chilling. I never knew love could feel like fear, she confesses. It wasn't just love, it was indoctrination. Then the final question comes, cutting through the quiet. Would you say he emotionally abused you? And Robin's answer is clear, firm. Yes, I would. It lands like thunder.
Wow. That phrase, I just don't feel spiritually aligned with you, that is a masterclass in spiritual manipulation. It's so insidious. It takes someone's deeply held beliefs and twists them, frames any dissent, any independent thought as a spiritual failing. In a faith-based community that's incredibly powerful and damaging, it creates this awful internal conflict. Questioning the abuser feels like questioning your own faith, your own soul. And Robin's realization, I never knew love could feel like fear, that's profound. It captures the essence of coercive control, where affection is conditional, withdrawal is the ultimate punishment. It creates constant anxiety, constant striving for approval. It also links directly back to that flashback of Christine leaving in 2021. Robin saw Cody's rage then, but now she understands it only takes one person walking out to show everyone else they were never really free. Christine's act of leaving became like a lighthouse, showing Robin a painful but necessary path to her own truth. It really shows the ripple effect of courage.
The defense lawyer, trying to regain control, gets colder now, tries to rattle her. Brings up old interviews where she praised Cody, asks if she wasn't happy then. But Robin's response is strong, unwavering. I did, because I was afraid of what would happen if I didn't. He'd stop loving me. And in our world, that's the same as disappearing. That statement just hangs there in the courtroom. A stark, painful truth. Nobody moves, because every wife there knows exactly what she means. Losing Cody's love wasn't just emotional. It felt like a death sentence, cutting them off from their world. She's perfectly articulating that illusion of choice, the invisible bars of her gilded cage. See Mary Brown, the quiet anchor speaks. Okay, another recess is called Mary Stays Behind, alone for a moment. The material says she's always been the hardest to read, the quietest in pain, the last to speak. She's the first wife, the forgotten anchor. She represents maybe the longest, most silent endurance in this whole complicated setup. But now it's her turn, under oath. Mary walks to the stand slowly. Composed, deliberate movements. Slate gray blouse, tight jaw. She's not shaking, not showing the storm inside. And Cody, for the first time, looks down. Can't meet her eyes. He knows what's coming. A reckoning from the very foundation he built.
The significance of Mary's testimony really can't be overstated. As the first wife, she embodies the longest journey within the system. She was there from the absolute beginning. And her declaration, delivered with just a barely audible tremble, she says, I was his first wife and his last choice. Wow, that just cuts right to the bone of her entire experience. It's such a stark, painful summary of her journey. From being a founding partner, helping build everything, to being overlooked, emotionally abandoned, an afterthought. That statement is so powerful because it captures that unique grief, watching love die while you're still trapped in the structure, living in the shadow of it. When someone who's been silent for decades starts to speak, especially the one who was supposed to be the rock, even the courtroom walls seem to lean in. Her story carries the weight of years of unspoken truth.
Mary's voice starts out flat, almost numb, like years of shutting down emotionally. It started with love, real love, she says. We built everything together. But then she describes this slow, painful erosion, not a sudden break. He stopped touching me, talking to me, then he stopped seeing me at all. That line is haunting, isn't it?
There is a unique kind of grief in watching someone fall out of love with you while still living in the same house.
Oh, absolutely. That specific grief, Mary describes the emotional abandonment within the shared home. It speaks volumes about the insidious nature of emotional abuse. It's not always yelling or fighting. Sometimes it's this slow, soul-crushing withdrawal. Affection, presence, validation just gone. It's the silent treatment stretched out over years, leading to this profound sense of invisibility, of worthlessness. And that 2010 flashback, Mary's birthday, Cody late, laughing with Robin, Mary's gift unopened, the cake candles almost burned out. That's such a vivid, painful picture of this deliberate, chilling neglect. It shows how strategic, how consistent Cody's emotional distancing was, designed to chip away at her self-worth, her autonomy. Mary continues, her voice gaining a bit of strength now. I asked for therapy. He said no. I asked to move out. He said I was giving up on God's plan, so I stayed. Her voice cracks then, raw emotion finally breaking through. Every time I tried to leave, he'd pull me back, not with love, with guilt, with scripture, with shame. She also details these isolation tactics. At first it was comments, subtle jabs about my independence. Then it became expectations that I only confide in him, that I guard the family's secrets above all else, until I didn't know who I was anymore. My identity was completely subsumed.
That is textbook spiritual manipulation used to prevent autonomy. Framing her desire for help or freedom as giving up on God's plan, he weaponized her own faith against her. It created this immense psychological and spiritual barrier to her own well-being. It shows how insidious control is when it's disguised as divine will. Any attempt to assert herself felt like betraying her deepest beliefs. And her line, "Some cages are made of rules, not bars, and the hardest part is realizing you built some of them yourself," that's incredibly profound. It explains how victims, through years of manipulation, can internalize the abuser's narrative, become complicit in their own confinement, not by choice, but because their reality had been so distorted. And her point about isolation, classic tactic, slowly cut off outside support, erode their sense of self, make them totally dependent on the abuser for validation, identity. It's a complete psychological takeover.
The prosecutor pushes, her voice firm. Do you consider what you experienced to be abuse? Mary looks directly at Cody now. Her gaze is unwavering, powerful.
Yes.
Emotional, spiritual, and psychological abuse.
Cody visibly gasped.
The sharp breath in, leans forward, whispers urgently to his lawyer. His composure finally cracks under the weight of her words.
That gasp from Cody, the urgent whisper that's a huge moment, it's a stark admission that Mary's words, delivered with such clarity, such conviction, they've finally broken through his defenses. It's the sound of his control just crumbling right there in the courtroom. When the quietest voice, the one who absorbed decades of pain silently, finally speaks out, it echoes louder than anything else. Because it exposes a truth he clearly thought would stay buried forever, hidden under years of silence and twisted scripture. It's not just an accusation, it's her redefining her entire life, validating every doubt, every silent tear. The illusion finally shatters.
The defense lawyer, cool, tries to recover, challenges her. Mary, isn't it true you remained in this relationship by choice? Mary's response is fierce, utterly resolute. Because when you're taught that leaving means eternal damnation, it doesn't feel like a choice, it feels like a death sentence. The lawyer visibly stumbles a bit, clearly wasn't expecting that raw power. He tries to pivot, brings up her online affair. You once had an online affair, correct? Mary admits being catfished. I was lonely, desperate, I thought someone finally saw me. I admit I needed to feel human. And then suddenly, unexpectedly, the tears come. Raw, deep tears. Not a performance, just her composure finally breaking. I didn't come here to destroy him. I came here because if I don't tell the truth now, I never will. That plea for truth is just so powerful, isn't it?
Absolutely. Her response, it doesn't feel like a choice, it feels like a death sentence, perfectly nails the illusion of choice under coercive control. It exposes how those external pressures, religious, societal, can completely warp someone's sense of agency. The choice to stay becomes about spiritual survival, not real desire or free will. It powerfully explains why victims stay. And her admission about the catfishing, equally profound. It's not an excuse, she acknowledges that, but maybe it was, as she put it, the only way someone knows how to scream. A desperate, misguided cry for connection, for validation that was just completely absent in her marriage. For some people listening, yeah, it might muddy the waters, make them question her. But in the context of coercive control, it shows the extreme lengths someone might go to just to feel human again when they're being starved emotionally. Her raw tears are this cathartic release. They signal her commitment to truth no matter the personal cost, no matter the judgment. It's a testament to that desperate need for connection when emotional starvation becomes unbearable.
3. Unearthing deeper layers of control. Hidden wives and private records. A. The unexpected witness, Samantha Bell. Okay, during another break, the courtroom's buzzing. Christine gets this small folded note passed to her. Handwritten, ink a bit shaky. He did it to me too. No signature. She looks around, trying to figure out who sent it. Then it hits her. It wasn't someone inside the courtroom. It was slipped in. Another woman, a fifth woman, someone not even named in the case yet. Christine scans the gallery, sees her. Back row, beige coat, hat pulled low. Staring at Cody, the notes say, like she's already been on that witness stand 100 times in her head, just replaying her own story.
Wow. The impact of that note and then spotting her, it's huge. It confirms that saying every story has ghosts, but not every ghost stays silent. This immediately signals that Cody's pattern, his control, it goes way beyond the known family. This suggests a much bigger hidden problem, a systemic pattern of abuse carefully kept out of sight. It's a seismic shift in the whole story, suggesting the truth they're uncovering is just the tip of a much larger, darker iceberg. And Cody's reaction when she comes forward, eyes wide, jaw locked, he knows her. That's the confirmation. This isn't random. This is a past he tried to bury, a truth he thought was locked away.
So this woman approaches the clerk's desk, hands over a small envelope. One name inside, Samantha Bell, A new witness. Unlisted, unscheduled. But admissible now. As she walks to the stand, Cody's reaction says it all. Eyes wide, jaw locked. He knows her. The prosecutor starts. Can you tell the court how you know Mr. Brown? Samantha takes a breath, lips pressed tight. I met Cody in 1999. I was 18. I was supposed to be a spiritual wife, but the ceremony never happened. Christine looks absolutely stunned. Robin turns pale. Mary's hands curl into fists. They all instantly know what this means. He had others, before them, outside them, without them. His pattern started long ago.
Samantha's testimony is just devastating.
Right.
Because it doesn't just confirm, it massively expands the scope of Cody's manipulation. It shows this consistent, long-standing pattern of abuse that predates his public family. The fact that her experience mirrors the other wives so closely, right down to the spiritual manipulation, it reinforces that this wasn't unique to them. It was calculated, almost like a script he used, her chilling account. He told me my body wasn't mine, that it was given to him by divine order, that my doubts were the devil testing me. Christine actually gasps because she's heard those words before, almost word for word. That's powerful corroboration. He reused the same manipulative language, the same tactics. It reveals this predatory, systematic approach across different relationships. It suggests, control doesn't always evolve. Sometimes it just repeats, finding new victims with the same old insidious lines. It's a script he perfected and tragically reused.
And we get another flashback. A secluded desert compound. Cody's preaching, intense. Quoting scripture, his voice almost hypnotic. He touches Samantha's wrist, tells her she's chosen, special, but then immediately follows with a warning. Disobedience brings spiritual punishment on everyone. He whispers intimately, chillingly, you don't want to be responsible for someone else's pain. Back in court, Samantha's voice is tighter now, strained. She recounts gaslighting, isolation, sleep deprivation, using prayer as punishment. He'd make me kneel for hours if I questioned him, telling me I needed to pray away the devil's influence. Robin is openly crying now. Janelle is just frozen, face slack with shock. Mary is visibly shaking.
Right. This corroboration just shatters the idea that the sister wives situation was some isolated thing or just a unique family structure from their beliefs. Samantha's testimony, plus that flashback, it points to a systematic, almost cult-like approach to control. And the reactions from Robin, Janelle, Mary, they're crucial. They confirm it. All of this confirms what they felt, but never could prove. It was never just them. They were never the beginning. They were just the ones who stayed long enough to forget how it started. It raises that deeply disturbing question. What if the truth you feared most was that you were never the only one, that your unique pain was just part of a repeating pattern? And Samantha's conclusion. He told me once that obedience was love, but I know now it was survival. That's such a powerful redefinition. It resonates deeply for anyone who's faced that kind of manipulation, the difference between real love and forced compliance.
B. The damning journal entries. Okay, another break. Legal teams are huddled. Christine meets with the prosecutor, looking pale, intense. I want to know how many more there are, she whispers, clearly haunted by Samantha's testimony. The prosecutor looks grim. We found something. She slides this heavy, leather-bound book across the table, Cody Brown's private journal. Found in a storage unit he thought was secure, she says, buried deep under boxes of old family photos. The prosecutor just says, with this chilling finality, proof. And it's described so perfectly. Sometimes the most damning thing a man can say is what he says when he thinks no one will ever read it.
Oh, absolutely. The legal weight of a private journal, especially found like that, it's immense. It's undeniable evidence. This isn't someone else's interpretation. It's his own words, his own thoughts. Written when he thought nobody would ever see them, unfiltered, unchallengeable. That specific entry from August 3rd, 2006, it's a chilling look right into his mindset. Christine keeps asking about separate finances again. I told her she needs to understand her role. Submission is a commandment, not a suggestion. I've seen too many men let their wives run them into ruin. I won't be one of them. So that just validates everything the woman claimed about coercive control. Blows away any idea it was just emotional or a misunderstanding. It reveals this deliberate patriarchal ideology. Control through money and spiritual pressure.
Christine covers her mouth, a silent gasp. Janelle just shuts her eyes tight, like she's in physical pain. Mary mouths the words, I knew it. A quiet, profound vindication after decades of self-doubt. It's this moment of just devastating clarity for all of them. Like the quote says, when a man writes the rules for a kingdom only he controls, even paper becomes evidence of oppression. And the entries go on, detailing tactics like disciplinary silence, threats to revoke intimacy privileges, and this really disturbing reference to something called the rotation system. The judge, looking disturbed, asks for clarification. This rotation system. Christine speaks up before the lawyers, her voice steady. It's how he controlled who got love and who got ignored. 1 week with Robin, 3 days with Janelle, 2 weeks ignoring Mary, Christine on probation.
Wow, that rotation system. It's not just awful, it's a masterclass in what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. Think about it. Your deepest needs, affection, connection, validation, handed out on this unpredictable conditional schedule, totally at his whim. It keeps the victims constantly anxious, constantly striving, always hoping for that little bit of favor. It creates this profound emotional dependency, makes it incredibly hard to leave. Because the hope of winning back affection, even if it's brief, is this powerful psychological cage. It turns human connection into a tool, programmed control. Rewards and punishments. Love becomes transactional. The damage to self-worth is devastating, leads to chronic feelings of inadequacy, always asking, what can I do to be loved more? Like the material says, control disguised as ritual is still control, it just wears better robes. The courtroom is stirred because this reveals a cold, strategic mind, confirms the favoritism wasn't random, wasn't affection. It was a deliberate, cruel part of his manipulation system.
The prosecutor keeps reading. A really damning 2009 entry about Mary. If Mary threatens to leave again, I'll give her what she wants. She won't last 2 months outside the order. Her loneliness is my leverage. Mary gasps. This choked sound of disbelief and pain, it wasn't just in her head, her decades of suffering, trying to leave her deepest vulnerabilities. It was all strategy, documented, intentional. Cody shakes his head violently, desperate denial, leans to his lawyer, whispering, I never wrote that. That's out of context. But the handwriting is confirmed. Ink dates verified. No escape from his own words. Robin can't take it. Asks for a moment, steps outside. We learn she's pacing frantically, answers a call, then quietly says, almost a whisper, you kept that from me too.
That entry about Mary is particularly brutal because it explicitly confirms her worst fears. Her pain, her vulnerability weren't just noticed, they were actively exploited, used as leverage. It reveals the cynical, calculating side of Cody, viewing her suffering, her loneliness as a tool to keep her compliant, stop her from leaving. For Mary, it's this profound validation that the hurt was intentional, not just a side effect of their life. It's the moment the last shred of doubt about him just burns away. And Robin's reaction, realizing Cody kept that for me too, that signifies a critical break in her already shaky loyalty. Even as the favorite, she sees now she was kept in the dark too, manipulated, lied to. It highlights how pervasive the secrecy and control were, even with his supposed confidant. This is the moment when even the most loyal heart can truly fracture, because the lies are too deep, too cold, too obviously about strategic exploitation to ignore anymore. It suggests her special status was just another layer of control, another performance for him.
5A. Escalation to criminal charges and the final betrayal. Alias case. Physical assault allegations. Quote, next morning. The courtroom buzz is way more intense now. Word has spread beyond just gossip. There's a second case brewing, a criminal case, with real prison time on the table. This isn't just about civil stuff anymore. This is serious legal accountability. And the person pressing charges, not a stranger, a name the wives know even though she was kept quiet. Leah, 33, a former spiritual fiancé, someone isolated for 5 years in some remote place under Cody's thumb. And she's coming forward now, with scars, both physical and emotional, ready to finally tell her story.
Right, this is a critical distinction, a huge escalation. Moving from civil allegations, which were mostly about us, seeking damages, redefining relationships to criminal charges, that's State versus Cody Brown, seeking justice for breaking the law. Criminal charges, especially with physical assault alleged, go beyond emotional manipulation. They're direct violations of physical safety, with much harsher potential consequences like actual prison time. This completely changes the game. It underscores the potential systemic danger, the alleged violence in Cody's behavior, moves him from just a manipulative patriarch to an alleged criminal.
Christine and Janelle. Their belief in Leah is immediate, powerful. Christine whispers, sorrow and understanding in her eyes. I believe her. Janelle nods, jaw tight. I do too. But Robin hesitates. You can see the conflict on her face. I'm not sure I want him to go to prison. Christine's reply is cold, sharp, cuts right through the emotion. If you switch sides now, Robin, you're no better than him. You're enabling it all over again. And then, prompted by that stark question, Janelle makes this quiet, broken confession. A truth maybe she'd buried even from herself for years. He never hit me, but he restrained me once years ago, pinning me down. But I know now it was violence. It was absolutely violence.
Robin's hesitation, it really shows that deep psychological challenge, deconstructing years of loyalty, self-preservation, especially when it means admitting she supported the system now being exposed. It's not a simple flip of a switch. It's this huge internal struggle, a real reckoning with the reality and her part in it. That's common in coercive control victims. That trauma bond makes it incredibly hard to fully break away, even with proof. And Janelle's admission about being restrained, even years later, reevaluated now, it adds this crucial awful layer. It shows how the very definition of violence gets distorted in abusive relationships. Maybe non-punching physical acts get dismissed as not really hitting. Realizing it was violence is a painful but essential step in seeing the full picture, reclaiming her agency. This moment really highlights how when justice knocks, sometimes the people who open the door are the ones who once helped build the cage, and how hard it is to dismantle that internal structure.
B. Robin's ordeal and the therapy session Bombshell. Next morning, the tension is just unbearable. Robin's called to the stand again, but this time, the defense pulls this really risky, desperate move. They subpoena her, not for the prosecution, but for Cody's defense. It's a classic trap, and she's walked right into it. Cody's lawyer hands her transcripts of her old interviews. Carefully chosen bits where she defended Cody, praised him, painted him as loving. The lawyer's message is clear. Testify like this. Help prove he wasn't abusive. Don't. And they'll paint you as inconsistent, unreliable, just a bitter ex seeking revenge, implying she'll go down with him, reputation destroyed.
Yeah, that is a classic and deeply manipulative tactic, designed to control the story, intimidate the witness. It forces Robin into this impossible spot, risks her credibility, her reputation, no matter what she does now, tell the truth or stick to past statements made under duress. They're trying to discredit her future truth by weaponizing her past words spoken out of fear and loyalty. It creates this terrible no-win situation for her. It just shows the lengths an abuser and their legal team will go to control the narrative, silence dissent, even turning a victim's own words against them. It's a desperate power play.
But just before the defense can start cross-examining Robin, the prosecutor drops a bombshell. Totally unexpected. New evidence. She holds up this small USB drive. Contains the unedited audio of a 2020 therapy session between Cody Brown and Robin Brown, submitted with Robin's consent. Robin's face just drains of color. She forgot. She didn't think it still existed, the material says. A forgotten recording from a desperate attempt at healing. The room goes completely still. Silent. The weight of this moment is immense. The tiny USB drive is plugged in. A soft beep. Static. Then his voice. Cody Brown. Calm, confident, totally unaware his words would one day be played like this, in front of everyone. And what he says, it's devastating.
Oh, the power of that unwitting confession is just immense. When someone confesses without knowing they're confessing, that's not a mistake. That's who they really are. This tape just bypasses all the defense strategies. It gives this unfiltered, raw look into Cody's real mindset, his cold, calculating manipulation. His voice, calm, confident, explaining his methods. Devastating. It shows conscious intent, a chilling lack of remorse. He says, I don't need to raise my voice to be in control. I just take things away. Time, affection, and they always fall back in line. He calls it structure, not abuse. And that cold, hollow laughter that follows. Absolutely chilling. No warmth, no empathy. His description of Mary, she's like a dog that got used to the leash. Dehumanizing. And the ultimate threat to Robin herself, if she ever turned on me, I'd take everything from her. The house, the kids. I'd make sure no one believed her. That is definitive, irrefutable proof of his control, his malice. This isn't just a revelation. It's him unmasked, in his own voice.
Christine flinches, like she's physically recoiling from the coldness. Robin covers her mouth, eyes wide with horror. Janelle leans forward, shock mixed with grim understanding on her face. Mary's eyes glaze over, silent recognition of her own pain being dismissed so callously. They all remember those times, the silences, the punishments. But they didn't know he spoke about it so openly, so strategically, to a therapist. The impact on Robin is clear, visceral. This isn't the man she defended. This is a man she never fully saw. Not truly, not completely. Christine leans in and whispers, you still want to defend him? Robin just shakes her head, silent. A single tear rolls down her cheek. She doesn't go back to the defense table, not to Cody's side, no. With deliberate, slow steps, she crosses the aisle, sits down beside Christine and Janelle. Sometimes a line isn't drawn, we learn. It's crossed.
That moment is the absolute climax of the narrative. It shows how objective, undeniable truth, especially from his own mouth, can finally shatter years of self-deception, years of deep loyalty. Robin's silent decision to cross that aisle, incredibly powerful. It's this profound act of reclaiming herself. It's a pivotal alignment. Validates all the women's experiences. Shows that even the deepest loyalty, built up by years of love bombing and conditional affection, it can break when faced with undeniable proof of manipulation and abuse. It's a moment of immense courage, self-realization. It solidifies the collective truth of their shared experience, transforms them from isolated victims into this united front against him. That shift isn't just symbolic, it fundamentally changes the whole trial's dynamic.
V. The fallout. Arrest and unanswered questions. A. Cody Brown's arrest. The judge doesn't waste a second. Her voice is clear, firm. No room for doubt. Motion granted. Jeff, the bailiff steps forward immediately, hand firm on Cody's shoulder. Cody Brown, you're under arrest for obstruction of justice and witness tampering. And just like that, you hear the click of handcuffs. The man who controlled every tiny detail of these women's lives for decades built a whole kingdom on obedience and fear. He's brought down himself. His illusion of power finally completely shattered.
Exactly. The judge's immediate ruling, Cody's swift arrest, they're direct consequences of his actions. Clearly revealed by the overwhelming evidence, especially that therapy tape and his own journal. The charges obstruction of justice, witness tampering, their specific legal repercussions, directly tied to his active attempts to manipulate the legal process, hide evidence, intimidate his wives. This moment marks the complete collapse of his control. Not just over his family, but over his own future. It shows that the very system he twisted to control others can, ultimately, hold him accountable. The visual of the handcuffs is incredibly symbolic, isn't it? The man who controlled without bars is now physically confined.
Cody's final words, though, even as they cuff him, they're defiant, almost a sneer, laced with this cryptic threat. You think this is over. You don't even know what I protected you from. Our materials note, sometimes the villain doesn't go quiet. He goes cryptic, and that's even worse. What do you make of that final, chilling statement?
Yeah, that final cryptic line is deeply unsettling, isn't it? It's a classic abuser tactic, sowing doubt and fear even when they've lost. By saying, you don't even know what I've protected you from, he's not apologizing, he's not admitting anything. He's trying to maintain this perverse kind of control, suggesting there's some bigger, darker truth only he knows, a threat he was somehow shielding them from. It's a psychological ploy, implying they should be grateful that they're naive, implying their new freedom comes with dangers only he could handle. It leaves not just the women, but you listening, with this chilling unease. A ton of unanswered questions about the full extent of his actions, the implications. It's not closure, it's a new, disturbing layer, ensuring he stows in their minds, even from behind bars.
B. The lingering shadows. More secrets emerge. So the court clears out. The press outside is going crazy with headlines. But inside, the real story isn't quite over. There's this quiet, intense moment. Robin turns to Christine. Her face is this mix of fear and relief. There's something I never told you, she starts, voice barely a whisper. Christine just stares back, waiting, a new wave of apprehension washing over her. Robin hesitates, clearly struggling with this confession. Back in 2017, he made me sign something. Christine's voice is low, urgent. What kind of something? Robin looks away, then back at Christine, eyes welling up. A confidentiality agreement. It wasn't legal, not really, I don't think, but it had names, places, dates. I've kept it hidden all this time, terrified of what would happen if I ever spoke about it. Christine's skin prickles. This cold dread spreads through her. Why would he need that, Robin? What was he hiding that needed a confidentiality agreement, even when he knew it wasn't really legal?
The implication of an agreement like that, especially one he presented as binding, even if it wasn't, it points straight to a deliberate, systematic effort to hide past actions. This isn't just about managing family secrets. This suggests a much more calculated, sinister pattern of suppression, a way to silence people, protect himself from being exposed. These kinds of agreements, NDAs, gag orders, they're often used by powerful people to stop victims speaking out, effectively buying silence through intimidation, threats of legal action, whether they're truly enforceable or not. It speaks to a deep, dark history. And then the bombshell revelation from Robin just hits like a physical blow. Her voice, still barely audible, cracks as she finally says the terrible truth. Because it wasn't just us, it was others, other women, some underage.
Christine steps back, just stunned, reeling from those words. Janelle's eyes go wide like a silent scream of horror. Others? Christine manages to gasp. Other women? And some underage. My skin is absolutely crawling hearing that. It changes everything, doesn't it? It moves Cody Brown from manipulative polygamist to something far, far more sinister.
It's way beyond recontextualizing. It's a seismic shift. Forces us to reevaluate the entire scope of Cody's manipulation, his alleged crimes. What started as a civil case, even with criminal charges for tampering, now hints at something much darker, predatory, moves into potential sex crimes, systematic exploitation, the existence of a confidentiality agreement, especially mentioning underage victims. That speaks to a deeply calculated, premeditated effort to silence and protect himself from the most horrific crimes. This isn't just control over a family, it's potentially the systematic exploitation of vulnerable people, a pattern spanning years involving victims who, because of their age, legally cannot give consent. The sheer terror these women must have lived with knowing these secrets, it's almost unimaginable. This isn't just about truth for the wives anymore. It's about justice for potentially many, many more, and the potential for a huge cover-up.
And the fact that Robin, even as the loyal one, was forced to sign something, forced to be complicit in the secrecy. It just shows how deep that web of manipulation and concealment went. even among those he supposedly favored. It's not just betrayal. It's actively involving her in a cover-up, a burden she carried for years.
Precisely. It reveals that pervasive culture of fear and complicity a manipulator like Cody creates. Loyalty isn't freely given, it's coerced. Through threats, shared secrets, turning even those closest to him into unwitting or unwilling participants in his deception. The implications are staggering, suggests a pattern of behavior far beyond the public eye, impacting people who might still be trapped. By these agreements, by fear, by the belief their silence protects them. Robin's confession, terrifying as it is, it opens this Pandora's box that demands investigation. It suggests the unraveling of Cody Brown's public family life. That was just the first crack in a much larger, much more disturbing structure of hidden abuse.
And Christine finishes the sentence for her, her voice trembling. But if what's in that file still exists, then there are even more stories waiting to be told, more lives that have been shattered. And that's where our deep dive leaves us, right on the edge of an even deeper, more chilling truth. #outro. Wow, what a journey we've just taken through this courtroom drama, right? Uncovering layer after layer of manipulation and finally, truth. From Christine's incredibly brave first steps, finally giving voice to years of silent pain, to Robin's ultimate courageous crossing of that aisle, choosing truth. We've seen this intricate dance of coercive control, the huge power of collective testimony, and just the undeniable force of truth breaking through lies.
So what does this all mean for us, really? This deep dive, I think, it's shown us that abuse isn't always obvious, is it? It can hide right in plain sight, disguised as faith, as love, as just family structure. It really highlights the immense psychological pressure victims endure in these systems and the extraordinary courage it takes not just to break free, but to speak out publicly against someone who held so much power. This story, it isn't just about one family. It's about that universal struggle against manipulation and the ultimate triumph of voices that just refuse to be silenced anymore. It's about seeing those invisible cages and how even the most loyal can find their way to truth.
And we end with Robin's whispered revelation, that confidentiality agreement, others, some underage. It leaves us with this really chilling, provocative thought to mull over. How many more untold stories are still out there, bound by similar agreements maybe, by fear, or by the belief that silence is protection? And what responsibility do we have, as a society, to listen more closely, to look beneath the surface? Because sometimes even a whisper of a truth that profound, that terrible, can feel like thunder, revealing abuses we never suspected were there.